I'm Dr. Tony Bello. I'm the CEO of H2A Foods Nigeria Limited. It has been wonderful taking the global perspective right out of graduate school and working for Kraft General Foods and moving on to work for PepsiCo, Frito-Lay, and for the Kellogg Company. It has been a ride of my life. The joy is we're able to bring in all of these experiences to Nigeria and to Africa and to change the agribusiness space in this country and in this continent. I was fortunate to serve in the immediate previous administration of Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, former president of Nigeria, in the capacity of being the senior technical advisor on agribusiness for Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, who is now the president of African Development Bank. I think the government has done fairly well. I am old school. Old school in the sense that when I graduated from high school, the passing grades back then, you can have grade 1 with distinction. Grade 1 with distinction was aggregate 6 to aggregate 12 or thereabout, I recall. And you can have grade 1 up to aggregate 24, I think, and grade 2 was up to aggregate 35 or 36, and grade 3. I will give this administration a solid grade 2. That's where we are right now. As it relates to agricultural policy, promotion policy of the government, I will give them a solid grade 3. And I'll explain why I am saying this. But overall, the government, whether it's in the area of governance, whether it's in the area of the economy of our country, whether it's in the area of fighting corruption under governance, economic diversification, a solid grade 2. The current Federal Minister of Agriculture, under the leadership of Chief Audu Ogbe, came out swinging, building on the foundations of the agricultural transformation agenda. Their primary focus was 3 things. 1, how do we improve productivity of our smallholder farmers? 2 was how do we engage the private sector, crowded in the private sector to lead the economic revolution in the agribusiness space. 3 was institutional reforms. I gave them the overall a grade 3. Why do I say that? In the area of increased production and productivity, there is a need to continue to change the mindset of our aging farmers and attracting youths into agriculture. I think they've done a very good job of attracting youths, so I would say a solid grade 2 in that aspect. In the area of crowding in the private sector, I'm afraid that's where I come from, and so that's where the overall drive of grade 3 is coming up. And in the area of institutional reforms, I will give them a solid grade 2 in that aspect. And we have to go back to the Malabo Declaration that agricultural budgets should be in the tune of 10% of our national budget. But I have to say, if I think back to what the agricultural transformation agenda was all about, we were able to accomplish much with whatever that budget was. If we begin to change our mindset on how you leverage budget, I don't consider anything being too small. Right now, what you are giving, what do we do with it? And I think that's where the real opportunity is. It's not the size of the budget, but how do you leverage catalytic impact with the little that you have in your hands? And I think until we improve significantly in the area of governance, which this administration has done a fantastic job of addressing corruption. It is rather difficult to start talking about budget numbers. let's have budget, even if it's $10. What do you do with the $10? Accountability for that $10, I think, is much more important than is it $10 versus $100. Every administration have their own peculiarities. I have to say that the preparedness of our current administration to be able to recover from the economic deficits that we suffered during that period of transition has been fantastic. In terms of release of budgets, passage of budgets, it is what it is. Like I said, I always go back to what are we doing with what we have. And I think this administration has moved the needle in terms of leveraging the little that you have to make sure that things are done in a timely manner. Let's take the example of the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. That program ran so fast that we've been able to resuscitate the blending and batching of fertilizer within the country and timely delivery of these inputs to the farmers. When you have cash, you can always deliver on your results. There's always room for improvement, and I think the administration is doing what they can to move things in the right direction. If I look back to the current situation in Nigeria, where I feel bullish that we will continue on that growth trajectory, is in the area of attracting private sector. I have a colleague who came in with me from the United States. This visa upon arrival experience, I thought was so fantastic that within a short period of time, with the processes they have in place, we're able to bring in investors into the country, and the responses of our people, our government officials, extremely positive, very, very encouraging for our private sector. But in the area of public investment, we talk about enabling, creating the enabling environment. I think at the state level, we're doing fantastic. We're working with a couple of governors in Nigeria. And what those governors are doing in terms of casting the vision for the people, helping to change the mindset of the people, building and relying on cooperative farming, not subsistence farming, promoting improvements in modern agriculture, mechanization. These are things that they're doing right. Prioritizing the value chains for investors, creating a visionary roadmap for their individual states. I think they're doing a great job of it. But at the federal level, we talk about industrialization, diversification of the economy. But if we don't have targeted, structured investments in the area of renewable energy, power supply, leveraging our gas assets to generate electricity, and helping the private sector to reduce the cost of production, the cost of doing business, ensuring that the supply chain is seamless and building those infrastructures, then it will be a bit more difficult. Not that you can't make it in that environment, but let's maximize on our returns on investments by getting the appropriate government intervention, especially in the area of infrastructure. And I'd like to take that a little bit further. If we look at the agricultural space, the bodies of water we have in Nigeria, excellent resource. How are we leveraging that to ensure that we have a year-round agricultural production and productivity? That's where the opportunity is. So I would encourage that government, we focus our investments in the area of water management, in the area of generating renewable energy, with what we have, transforming agricultural waste into wealth. How do you do that? Let's leverage our knowledge and understanding of generating methane gas and enabling food preparation at the home level using methane gas that comes out of agricultural waste. Let's leverage solar energy. We are blessed with solar energy in our country. Let's harvest that solar energy, but in a structured and targeted manner. The way to do this is a public-private partnership platform where government doesn't own it, but they are facilitating those transactions. And I think the economic recovery and growth plan is a very strategic vision. And I think if we build on that, the sky is the limit, they say. But I think Nigeria is open for business. And if the administration would laser focus in on this economic recovery growth plan, the economic numbers will definitely improve in our country. Growing up in Nigeria, there is a bit of individualism. It's about me, it's about what I know. But I think as we begin to learn to work together, to work as a team, to partner together in implementation of our common passion, it's an area that can be improved upon. The organized private sector. And I'm not talking about big name private sector that people are leveraging for their individual gains. No. What I'm talking about is people with the right intellectual capital, with the right professional background and experience, coming together, working together towards a common vision. Let's have cooperatives that are making money because we are bringing our collective strengths, our collective human capital, the gifts and the talents God Almighty has given to us. That's the way forward. I'll use what we are doing in Edo State as an example. We are investing heavily in the cassava sector. We are transforming the opportunities that cassava as a root crop, as a root vegetable, is gluten-free, it is non-grain, and the demand for gluten-free foods in the world is skyrocketing. So in our first phase in the work we're doing in Edo State, we have 681 farmers. They all come from the cooperative, as cooperatives, across three senatorial districts in Edo State. And we are bringing in the best of the best in terms of human capital, human resource, to train and to equip these farmers on best agricultural practices. So our stems would come from the very famous IITA cassava stem, high yielding in starch, TM 419. And we would make this available. We're working with Syngenta as an agrochemical supply company under that particular scheme. And so we're bringing in the best minds, the best resources to our farmers. We have in our first phase, I think 454 farmers who are organized into cooperatives. They organize themselves, and we're just leveraging the power of cooperatives. So cooperative mindset for large-scale production, I think, is the key here.